Our first presentation today will be a panel, and the topic being discussed will be the future of cannabis is purpose-driven brands. I'll repeat that. Future of cannabis is purpose-driven brands. Our panel moderator is Davina Kaonohi. I love that. It's just musical. Kahonohi, CEO, Element Apothec, and she will be joined on her panel by Joe Witte, Vice President, Business Development of Tag One, and Hayden Fulstone, co-founder, Liquid IV. Davina is the CEO and co-founder of Element Apothec. She is a seasoned entrepreneur with over 20 years experience in B2C, technology, and recruiting sectors. She has experience in startup strategy development, leadership, people strategy, recruitment, and organizational development. As a strategic leader and brand creator, Davina is passionate about challenging the norm and making a difference with every company she has worked with. With Element Apothec, Davina brings to the table vast experience in team building, business strategy, and operational management, and a mission to create good in the world. I will now yield to Davina. Please welcome her.
Hi, thank you so much, John. And thank you, Brad, for putting together such an incredible event. Every time there's more amazing panelists and speakers and presenting companies. So I'm really happy to be here and such a great group of people. As John mentioned, I'm Davina, the CEO and co-founder of Element Apothec, and we're a new body care and wellness brand really positioned to redefine the industry, focused on clean, safe, and effective products. And we really are a purpose-driven brand, which is why this topic to me is so exciting. The future of cannabis, I think, not just cannabis, but across all industries, consumers are really starting to look for purpose-driven brands and decisions that they make. So I'm happy to be talking about this today and bringing some of these questions and answers to the community here. So as part of the panel, I'm excited to be here with Hayden Fulstone, as you mentioned, who is not only the co-founder of Liquid IV, but also is a business advisor to small and mid-sized companies, as well as an investor. And Joe Witte of Tag One, he's the VP of Business Development. So we're going to be going through and having some Q&A. If you have any questions from the audience, please feel free to post that in the chat and we'll try to answer those questions as they come in. So to start out, Joe, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about what you're doing at Tag One.
Great, thanks, Davina. It's awesome to be here and appreciate you guys including us. So a little bit on my background. I've been an entrepreneur, early stage founder for close to 20 years, which is a little bit scary. Mostly software and as well as some services, been in the crowdsourcing business and connected with the team at Tag One. I love the mission and vision, ultimately is what it came down to. And previously, I helped start a nonprofit that helped veterans, military veterans start and grow businesses. So, I was able to capture and dive into organizations that had a higher purpose. And so when TJ Manish started the company, probably 4 or 5 years ago, they built the software. And I had a chance to talk with them. I just was passionate about the opportunity to go out and track products seed to sale, to build in tech traceability into software and solutions so that we have a better idea about what we're putting in and on our bodies. Blockchain is just a component of that. I know that probably gets more headlines than it deserves, but it's a way that we can build in product provenance and make sure that what people are putting in their data is actually what it is. So great topic today. I'm excited to be here and answer more questions.
Great, thank you, Joe. And to turn it over to Hayden, would you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Davina. Nice to be here. Excited to see you all. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. My name's Hayden. As Davina said, I am the co-founder of Liquid IV. So back in 2012, I had a crazy idea to create a product in an extremely crowded market. And was naive enough and got lucky enough and worked hard enough along the way to make it a success. And earlier this year, about a month ago, our business was actually acquired by Unilever. So super exciting to be able to have grown that business up. And now I've been fortunate enough to work with other early stage startups and small businesses like Davina to advise them on their growth and actually invest in some of those businesses. So that's a little bit about me, and we'll jump into more of the mission driven stuff in a bit.
Great, thank you so much. It's interesting, this topic, because I was just reading something recently and it said consumers really want to buy from companies that are just doing right by the people and the planet. And it continues to drive the shift towards purpose-driven brands. And I think that doesn't only apply to consumers buying products, but to decision makers deciding what businesses they're going to work with and why they're going to work with those companies. And some of the statistics I recently came across is 50% of consumers are willing to spend more for a purpose-driven brand. 68% of consumers are willing to switch from a known brand to an unknown purpose-driven brand. 78% of consumers would tell others to buy from a purpose-driven company. So the numbers are continuing to shift. I think I read something else that said 30% of people today can say now more than they did 2 years ago that they are completely focused on only buying products from purpose-driven brands. So it's definitely a topic and something that's important for consumers, for brands, for investors to consider when they're looking at what brands that they're moving into. So now we'll go into some of the questions and answers. And again, if you have any questions, if you're in the audience, please feel free to put those in the chat and we'll try to take some time to answer those questions. So Joe, this question's for you. And if you could tell us, you talked a little bit about Tag One, but if you can tell us, what is it about your mission and purpose that really sets Tag One apart from some of the other companies in this space?
Sure. So, when we looked at, what drove our purpose, I think it starts at home, our personal experiences. And so the co-founders and myself, we've all had some level of autoimmune or cancer in our families. It's hard to of course, diagnose exactly what the source of those were, but it's something that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense and may have a lot to do with what we're putting in on our bodies or what we're exposed to. So, I mean, if we were just, let's say, a software company and wanted to sell software, do companies do great, just focus on software and focus on revenues? Of course they do. But when we tie into what our higher mission is, which is how do we work with companies that are purpose-driven, that are focused on quality, focused on sustainability, focused on purity in what they're doing, and maybe growing their product from regenerative farms or organic, then suddenly there's a higher level of passion, a higher level of purpose when we're getting up in the morning, when we're working a little bit later at night, to know that there's a bigger picture here to make a change in the world. And so that has always been a cornerstone of what we're doing. At the end, we're an enterprise software platform, but we realize the companies we work with oftentimes have similar values and similar cultures to us, and that's where it starts. So I think the impact can ultimately have on talent, recruitment, and retention. It can have on, of course, the byproduct is a wonderful marketing message too, that you can integrate into your deck and your pitches and your message that people can resonate with, which I think we all want to do now, and is a good differentiation. And of course, we're changing the world. So that's ultimately, what attracted me to the company, and I think what helps attract us to other organizations.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think you drove home so many important points in terms of it's not just about the product that you create or the service you're providing to people, but it goes much deeper. And I think people are really looking from that now in terms of what is the purpose? How can I align with companies that have similar values? If you're an investor, why do I invest in this company? Because if you have a purpose and you have your why, you're going to work so hard to make sure that your company is successful. So that leads me over to Hayden, because obviously you've had some recent big success with some of the things you've started, and what was it that drove you to really start Liquid IV and now continue to work with mission-driven and purpose-driven brands to help them do the same thing?
Yeah, when we first started Liquid IV, and just to give everyone a little bit of background on what it is, if you don't know, it's an electrolyte drink mix. So it's basically a healthier version of a sports drink or a way to hydrate. And so it's basically electrolytes and minerals and vitamins that you put in water and hydrates you more efficiently and effectively than just drinking plain water alone. So when we first started, we really, our mission early on was to help people live better lives. So that was like through health, through wellness, through just what we were doing in the community, through our company culture. And so we wanted to figure out a way to take that mission and not only help people who are buying our product, but figure out a way to apply that to other people who maybe couldn't afford our product, or in other places around the world who are and suffering from more serious illness or disease. And so we kind of landed on, we looked at businesses before us like Tom's and these other companies who had done one for one type things. And we implemented early on, we actually implemented a strategy where we just donated 30% of the product we were producing. And we realized that wasn't sustainable with our margins and different things early on. And so, we wanted to not only be a profitable business, but also help out. So we kind of figured out more of a one-for-one where anyone who ordered our product from our website or from any of these different platforms we were selling on, we would donate a serving around the world to someone in need. So right from the beginning, I kind of established myself as our chief give back officer. And so I was really focused on building out relationships with giving partners around the world. And we started in Haiti, and that's kind of, I had a partner there that we were able to connect to and start donating product there. And then over time, we really expanded our mission to include other giving partners, which has allowed us to donate over 5 million servings of life-saving hydration around the world today. So.
Great, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Joe, I have a question from you. So as you've created this brand and working with it and looking at other brands that you partner with, how can purpose-driven brands, from your perspective, really drive this industry forward and help make the change that we all feel is necessary?
I think that when you talk about purpose-driven brands, I think ultimately what we're talking about is, mission. So being in the service before, you have to look at, well, what could you get people from all different backgrounds, races, sexes to suddenly do something in a unified manner and do things that are borderline crazy, right? Like we're going to go to a mission and there's going to be people shooting at you, and yet you have to go achieve that mission. And yet our backgrounds don't really matter. So when you talk about building in a purpose-driven mission, it's a way to pull your team together. It builds a higher level of accountability. It builds leadership. It builds humility. And all those are the cores of running a good operational business. There have been recent large CBD businesses, and certainly on the cannabis side too, that have failed, yet they've raised tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and have had the full support of extremely powerful political figures. Why? Why did they fail when other agile companies who have a higher purpose and some humility are succeeding? It's because they didn't have the right culture. So I think inherently what we're talking about is building the cornerstone of culture and organizations, and something that is going to integrate integrity and humility to understand we're still learning as we go. It's a young industry.
Great, thank you. And Hayden, I'd like to ask you the same question from your perspective. How can purpose-driven brands drive this industry forward? And I think not just cannabis, it applies across the board to all industries.
Yeah, I mean, Joe said it perfectly, but I think from my perspective, you have to have brands have to have a vision that, and then a mission for that vision that they're obsessed about, basically, and that they're just like, it gets ingrained in the company culture, and it falls down to every decision you make. Is it moving towards this vision and towards this mission? And I think that companies have to have core values and guiding principles, and companies that have those and follow those are the ones that are going to survive and make it, because they'll do whatever it takes to make those happen. So for us, it was all about figuring out what our mission was early on, and that was helping people live better lives. All right, is what we're doing today, is it working towards that? Is it, that's really our mission and vision in growing the business. So
great, thanks. Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day about purpose-driven brands and preparing actually for this, and they said, sometimes I wonder, is your mission and purpose really matter? Is it just marketing jargon? And I said, no, it really matters, because it's the drive behind the decisions you make. It's what unifies all of the decisions in terms of, like what Joe said, in hiring, in putting together your practices and the products that you build, and the consumers and other business partners are always thinking about that when they're focused on companies that really have a strong mission. So with that, Joe, I know Tag One's really been focused on, how do you communicate this type of message so that people know that you're just not putting out a great product that people can use and a great platform, but that there's so much more behind that. So how can a company communicate their purpose and their mission?
I'd say one, it starts internally, and that starts with literally writing down the values of your organization and pulling into ideally your whole team, but depending on the size of the company, maybe it's some of your core executive leaders, and say, hey, these are the 5 values or 7 values we're going to abide by, and everybody has permission to correct one another if we stray from those values. And that sometimes means making hard decisions, like, and somebody's really talented, but they just don't fit the values, and letting them go. Or here's a hard one: somebody wants to invest in your company, and yet their values don't align with your company values, and say, no, we're not going to take that money. So it starts there, and that's the core, and that's really the heartbeat of the organization operation. And then from there, you start to, hire a really good marketer, and then make sure that is of course, in the fabric of all that you're doing as an organization, and then weaving that into your messaging, whether it's, webinars or social media, and just letting people know. And then, I love, of course, what Hayden talked about, like, they're investing in supporting Haiti. And I think that's where its heart is. But as with anything, when the tree falls in the forest, you have to let people know what happened and how you're making an impact. That's just part of the benefit and value. So, I mean, you talked about it too. People are going to, sometimes question, because we're all skeptics, or there's a lot of skeptics in the world, but say, no, we're actually here and focused on doing the right things, and that comes first. So, yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Great, thank you. And what about you, Hayden, especially because you work as a business advisor? What's the best way that companies really can communicate their purpose? I know, for example, with Element Apothic, we're really focused on not just the people that we have as part of our team, but the companies that we partner with the types of education and information that we continue to put out there. And so what would be your recommendation to companies starting out in terms of what would be the best way to communicate that?
Yeah, I think that's something that I struggled with a lot, actually, when we were building out our mission, was how do I show people the things that we're doing that are good? Because I always felt, because I was going to these different places, going to Haiti, going to Africa, and I felt weird or awkward or uncomfortable trying to showcase that or figure out how to create messaging around that. But to let people know, because obviously that's going to support you with with your marketing, and then people really understand like what you stand for as a business and a company. So yeah, no, it's super important. I think exactly what Joe said. It starts internal. You gotta write those things down, have them up on the wall, have that get really ingrained in part of your company and your culture, and make sure that resonates with your customer service, with everything, with your packaging, with like it. And that's another big place, making it on your packaging if possible, through your emails that you send out when people order, and like letting them know that they're supporting good causes. Yeah, you just have to. It starts internally, then work on your messaging, and get that really down succinct to what you want it to say and stand for, and then you can start to put it out through your on your website, and then it'll just start to become part of the company and really everything you do, and spreading it out from there. So.
Great, yeah, thanks. So Joe, I have another question for you. And you mentioned it earlier in terms of making decisions on businesses that you partner with. And so what are some of those deciding factors that you go into it? And have you at all been inclined to turn away from businesses that really don't align with some of the messaging that you're putting out there?
It's a good question. So it cuts both ways, being that we're a blockchain software that provides tech traceability and integrated supply chain. We first went out, we targeted a lot of supplement companies and thought, there's a lot of support from some of the larger supplement associations, and we were getting a lot of good PR, but the interest from the corporations and the spenders wasn't quite matching up to the buzz early on. What we did find is like, when people talk about sustainability or transparency and organic, and they do things the right way, they tend to show more interest inherently. And a little light bulb, maybe a big light bulb, went off my head, like, it's not the industry per se, it's we're already aligned, like our values are already aligned for what we're trying to do and what they're doing. And in some ways, the people who want us aren't necessarily the ones that need us. It's the people that need us who probably who don't want us that probably need us the most oftentimes. But great companies want to get better inherently, and so it started to come together. So yeah, to your point, one of our core products, Tag One Connect, is QR code labeling for your packaging, where people can pick it up, scan it with a mobile device. You can show their certificate of analysis, the source, where it's grown, where it's processed, put cool videos and photos on there, social connect. So it's a great packaging component and a great way to engage consumers and differentiate yourself with retailers. However, there's some people who want to use that technology and not necessarily do the right thing on the back end. Hey, we want the, we want, kind of the whipped cream, but, we don't have any real product behind it. Terrible analogy, but I think you guys get my point. So there have been times when we've just kind of slowly backed away from those companies and said, yeah, we're not going to let you use our platform to talk about transparency and good quality if you're not using good transparency and good quality. And that's something we put in our terms and conditions, which is like what you say you put on here, you're responsible for, and kind of have high level expectations. But we shake those out internally. But yeah, it is important to work with companies that we believe in who use our platform.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody just had typed in the chat that cash is king, and sometimes it's not about money these days. And I think that's a decision that all companies and brands have to make at some point. Is there may be money on the table, but who do you want to align yourself with, and how does that drive your business forward? And those decisions that you're making, not just from people that want to partner with you, but investors that are looking to invest their money to know what the long-term success of your company is going to be. Are you really aligned with this, or are you just saying that and you'll take any money that comes on the table?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing to remember when you're getting investors, like it's a marriage, right? Like the work has just begun. That investor didn't give you money so you can go relax and put your feet in the sand. He gave you money to make more money and expects a certain return on investment. So if you don't think that there's accountability on your part when you accept somebody's check, you need to check yourself. It's hard work, and that requires communication from both sides. And at the same time, if you're accepting money from an investor who's not sophisticated and doesn't understand that it's rarely linear from point A to point B from when you're going to make money, and there's going to require a lot of pivots, like they should know the risks that go into investing in a company as well. It's a two-way street. You need to find as somebody I can go to battle with, and who can provide some good insights and solve problems together.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think everyone sitting here on this panel and the judges are considering that as they're looking at the companies that are going to be presenting today. So to Hayden, I know you've recently started making investments, and what type of value do you place on companies that are more mission purpose driven? How do you determine that?
Yeah, it's super important to me. I think there are really like three key things that I look for in companies that I invest in. And the first thing is the founders and the people running the business. And if I align with their values and I can see their determination and their obsessiveness with making that a success, that business. So that's one thing. The other thing is, usually the product or the brand. You can always improve. You can always improve the brand. You can always improve the product, depending on kind of the industry. But that's huge. And then the third thing for me is really, do they have some sort of focus on sustainability, and are they, are they trying to make the world a better place in one way or another? Whether that's through helping people heal or creating some sort of healthier product. I'm also very, very conscious of the environment. So looking for things that are as sustainable as possible, cutting down on plastic and waste and all the above. So those are probably the biggest things I look for, even more so than like proven sales or anything like that. I'm obviously investing in a lot of like early stage, so higher risk companies, but I've been there before and it's possible. And so, yeah, those are the kind of the key things that I look for.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we only have a few minutes left if anybody has any questions, but I'd like to kind of end it with each of you, talking through a little bit about what this topic was and what it personally means to you, and how you'll continue as a brand to continue driving this forward. So I'll start with Joe.
Yeah, sure. So, I think ultimately everybody, needs to pick in their life a mission. And of course that mission can change, but I think we've all found that when there's something that's bigger than us, when we're giving back in some capacity to the world and not just trying to take from it, greater things happen. We attract people who have that similar mindset. And that when we say attract people, that doesn't just mean customers, that means talent and people who we work together. It means investors, it means mentors. And so ultimately, when you're developing that culture of something that's going to be sustainable, and I talk about in my coaching business about cultivating sustainability, having a higher purpose that's bigger than us and having an impact in this world is important. And there's all different components as it comes to this industry. Hayden's picked one where he's investing in people who need a lot of help in Haiti, but it could be about sustainability. It could be about eliminating plastics. It could be about, Davina, I know you're getting into like kind of regenerative and organic products and making sure that they're very pure and high quality. So everybody can pick what they're most passionate about and can have an impact and drive that forward. It's just a better way to live. I think, one of the things I think the younger generation has got right is say it's not just about the bottom line, and realizing that when we invest, which ultimately is an investment in higher purposes, there actually does impact the bottom line. Like it's kind of a triple bottom line component.
Great, thank you so much. And Hayden?
Yeah, so I think basically I think if you're not finding a way to incorporate some sort of give back or sustainability or something that's really attempting to make the world a better place, then you're really missing out on opportunity. I believe that humans and people are innately good, and I think it's our kind of duty to do good, help each other, create businesses that are responsible and going to make all of our lives better. So I think generally, like, I would just challenge everyone to look at their business, look at their mission, look at their values and their vision, and constantly be reevaluating it too. Every quarter, every year, looking at, are we still headed in the right direction? Have we lost our way? Are we too focused on, maybe making money or whatever? Obviously, making money is good, and you can't have a business if you don't do that. But I definitely challenge people to try to incorporate, some sort of give back or mission or sustainability really into their brands and their companies. So.
Great, thank you. I completely agree. I think people deserve better, and we all have a responsibility to meet those needs. And people are really hunting and searching and willing to pay more, willing to partner with companies that are doing that. And by doing that, especially in this industry where there's a lot of stigmas against us and people still unsure about what we're doing, we all have a responsibility to do better. And that is in everything that we do. So I thank you. I think we're right on time actually of finishing. Thank you, Joe and Hayden, for participating.
Thanks, Davina.
Today.
This is awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Davina. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for having us. That was great.
Bye, thanks.